So, good evening, everybody. I'm happy to see you all again, and I'm very much happy to welcome our guest speakers for this evening. Two gentlemen, right now situated, as I can see, in Kassel at the very famous and fine teacher training center in Kassel in Germany, especially high school teacher training center. And with the blue color, this is Professor Dr. Wilfried Sommer, who is a professor for didactics in physics and is very much engaged in developing phenomenological teaching methods for high school teachers in the field of physics. And with him is my dear colleague, Professor Dr. Dirk Rohde, with the red jacket. He is originally a high school teacher from Marburg, Waldorf School, and is also teaching at the Kassel Teacher Training Center, is a professor for biology, didactics of biology at Alanus University. I know both of them very well, have been done a lot of work with them together, publications, seminars, and they are all over the world teachers for natural sciences, physics, chemistry, and biology. And I think this topic we have today, how high school capable is Waldorf? As far as I can see, it's really a question for the future. We have very fine Waldorf schools all over the world. They are doing a good job also on the level of kindergarten and class teachers, but it's becoming more and more a crucial question. What can we offer for high school students? That this is still a school which is worthwhile to visit. We see it in Germany. There is some kind of a high school crisis. So not every school has a stable high school anymore as it has been for a long time. So the question, are they attractive for high school students? Do we have the right offers for high school students? And what can we do to have a solid Waldorf high school? And they are really experts in that field. And I'm very much happy to welcome you for your talk tonight.
Ja,
Thank
thanks
you.
from our side. Du wirst zuerst mal hier den Raum zeigen?
Yes, just where are we?
Ja.
You can see here the students from Alanus just saying hello, attending the lecture. And here, now we have the shift to our place. And Dirk would like to make some preliminary remarks.
Yeah, very warm welcome to everybody, also from our side. And I thought it's a good idea to make some preliminary remarks because all of you who have been in Sven's talk lecture last week will remember that he talked about Waldorf traditions and how to deal with Waldorf traditions. From a certain point of view, to this evening, today, Wilfried and I will try in a way to continue what he started last week. And so what did Sven say last week? He talked quite a bit about traditions we stick to and which become sort of, in a way, might become problems. Like you might remember the wax crayon example he introduced us to last week. So what Sven presented from our point of view is mainly a question, at least in Germany. We are most familiar with German situations. Is usually a topic in primary school and lower secondary school. In high school, the whole question of tradition is quite different because there what we observe is that traditions, they are not discussed, they are not, in a way, they're not a topic of concern, but they are sort of fading away, given up, and then they are gone. Many things like even teaching in main lesson blocks or sticking to the curriculum or doing some like the morning verse and so on. In high school, it's very easily just gone. And why is it like this? Because in high school, we have in a way, two challenges, you could say. One is, of course, that in high school, we face the challenge of final high school exams. In Germany, we have final high school exams for graduation. And we know, of course, in other countries, there are university entrance exams, but in a way, this is the same challenge. So the topic in high school is often how to get all the students to pass the exams that they can graduate, get a high school degree, and then they can proceed to go to university. This is so dominant then that, and for this, you don't need any sort of Waldorf education, of course. So that on one side, the colleagues, and then the parents, and also the students say, well, the most important thing for us is to get this final high school exam degree. And so why do we need Waldorf anymore? This is one thing. And on the other hand, to keep the schools running, and we have such a lack of teachers now in Germany, so that many schools are forced to employ teachers who are often not Waldorf teachers, not trained Waldorf teachers. And on the other hand, often they are not even trained teachers. They just know their subjects and they are sort of scared to go for to train students that they pass the high school exams, that they don't care about Waldorf education at all anymore. And then, of course, in the schools, there is nobody who says, well, you're in a Waldorf school and you're supposed to teach in a Waldorf way. And so this is the situation we are facing on one side. On the other side, Wilfried and I we don't want to talk anything about some like pessimistic or all these points of view that there is a degradation of Waldorf education. This is just one side. On the other side, you can also see in Germany that there are many very, very interesting projects how to not just continue with traditions in high school, but also to overcome, but in a way to transform these traditions and come to new innovative approaches in high school. And so we are involved in quite a number of them, and we know also quite a number of them. And so each of us chose 3 examples. So all in all, we will introduce you into 6 examples tonight. What we think where Waldorf is not just high school capable, but also it's very, very interesting. It's very inspiring how certain Waldorf schools try to overcome this sort of depression, and you could call this sort of a depression situation or depressing situation, to try not only to overcome and with very good results. And so we want to introduce you into the way we fight for new high school Waldorf education here in Germany. So 6 examples tonight, and we will stick to 7 Waldorf traditions by talking about these 6 examples. And so one is phenomenological teaching, teaching in main lesson blocks, teaching with latent questions. Then Waldorf schools are supposed to be schools for all pupils, not just for those who are, need some sort of a special care or they're more practically gifted and so on, but also for excellent, very smart students. So this is one thing we want you to keep in mind, that Waldorf schools are also meant for all sorts, for the whole gradient, for all sorts of students. This is number 4. Then number 5 is the significance of grade 13 in Waldorf schools in Germany, the 7-year cycles, and that we have the tradition that in grade 12 students work on own projects. So these 7 topics will be touched in our 6 examples during the next hour. And we are aware that this is just a personal choice, these 6 examples. There are more examples in Germany, and we are sure that there are even many more worldwide, and we are happy, we're looking forward to also in the end, when there's time for an exchange, we are also looking forward to learn from you more examples, inspiring examples worldwide, how high school capable is Waldorf education. So now Wilfried will start with the first example.
I will change the camera and I will get started the presentation. Here we are. The topic, how high school capable is Waldorf? Of course, I do not want to draw a final conclusion, but what I would like to do is that I will show some particular signatures of Steiner Waldorf education I trust in. And what is very specific for high school Waldorf education is that you look at the development of adolescence, that you look at the content of the teaching and the world you meet as a unity. And I would like to relate to this unity first. And for that, I will look at this developmental task that the students have to form their identity during adolescence. Of course, they have to do it all their life, during all their life. But I would like here to focus on adolescence, and I would like to do it with a heuristic approach of Juliane Noack-Napoles, and she describes 3 dimensions of forming one's identity. And later I will link that to the anthropology Steiner sketched for adolescence. And those 3 dimensions are that you meet what is given. You just meet in the world what is given. You can't discuss it, and you have to relate to it. And then you are also with your community, but you are also with all the appearances, all the events you have met. So you have one dimension that is meeting what is given. The other dimension is being with. And the third dimension is being oneself. You have the givenness of things, the co-presence with, and the self-consciousness. And these 3 dimensions of forming one's identity have a specific color during adolescence. And this forming of one's identity in high school, of course, is linked to a learning pathway. And in that learning pathway, you have like 2 sides. The side of anthropology, that is the left-hand side of this slide. And on the other side, you have that something is different, that you have a certain authority you meet, and this, that you meet something that is different and you connect to it, we call in Steiner Waldorf education shared encounter. Something is given and you are in a state of co-presence with it. And through that, you change your point of view, you look at it from the outside, and you can realize what is the otherness of what I have met. And through this process, you can find your self-consciousness, you can find your positions, you can find who you are. So it's like a progression of spiraling up between that you have these three dimensions in anthropology, and through the meeting of different situations in the world, you can form your own identity. You can learn how you can relate to yourself. And in what is shown here, being different or authority, that is often just denoted as shared encounter. And the otherness of things is, when you look at it from the outside, is the concept building. And this is in high school very present. And for me, it's interesting that these three dimensions of forming one's identity you find in the age between 12 and 20 in different colors. The first thing is that you start with your sexual maturation. We call it puberty. The body is just different. And you have to learn that this different body becomes your body anew. Then suddenly you have strong emotional reactions. You really can experience the authority of what you actually meet, and even your own emotions are quite different. And finally, you can see what that means, and you have the emerging adulthood, and you can take up responsibility. So this pathway from puberty to adolescence to taking up responsibility strongly corresponds to these three dimensions of identity: what is given, the co-presence, and the self-consciousness that you relate to yourself anew. And this way through puberty, adolescence, and emerging adulthood has in Waldorf a specific context. And now I will relate to Steiner. Steiner relates to these three dimensions of forming one's identity more to the bodily realm, the soul realm, and the consciousness realm. And it is like a development through these three realms. And the specific color you have in high school now is by going this pathway from puberty to adolescence and emerging adulthood, is that you have as a teacher this striving or this asking or reviewing your lessons. Are there latent questions within these, in my teaching, in my encounter with the young people? And are there latent questions that relate in a very basic manner to the connection between the human being and the world? That is one very particular question that gives a specific color in Steiner Waldorf and education. Another very specific color or aspect is that you have as a teacher this question: how can I generate enthusiasm? How can I provoke enthusiasm through the content taught? How can I teach in a way that it really evokes enthusiasm? And the third aspect that is very particular for Waldorf is that you have this endeavor that the phenomena you present, the vignettes you are looking at, you bring them in a way, you present them in a way that they become transparent in the mind's eye of the observer. So that you have really this very moment that the phenomena come into being, come into presence during the lesson taught. And to do this, you have a particular phase structure in the main lesson, and you have a specific curriculum. And now I would like to relate to the aspect of the curriculum, and I'm really delighted about Martin Rawson's phrasing, crafting a curriculum of coherence. And now I'm going to look at crafting a high school curriculum. And I will just give a brief report about the research in the Pedagogical Research Center in the area of science education to provoke enthusiasm, to make the phenomena, just to make them appear in a way that they can provoke enthusiasm during high school science education. And let's start with puberty and just start with grade 9. And in grade 9, you have, for example, a geyser where you have boiling water here, and the boiling water here goes up, and finally you have in the funnel here strongly boiling water with all this water vapor. And what actually you have to discuss with the students, you have 2 meters away. Here is the fire, and you have the boiling just in the funnel 2 meters away. How is that possible? And it's like a gesture for all the eruptions you have in grade 9, and you really have to discuss strongly all the phase transitions of water to figure that out. That is, and really to get that demonstration going needs a lot of research. For example, you have to really to know what is the diameter of this hose, and then if you know about the correct diameter, you get it going. That is one example. Now I go to grade 10, and that was one research project. In grade 10, you have the situation that you have link your own thinking to the appearances you meet. And here you have a situation where a cart on an inclined plane is just fixed by a weight here, and it is also drawn in an upward direction by a weight here. And that is a very boring demonstration. But finally, we found out if we just move this pulley here upwards, then the students can see that the weights are just adjusted in a way that they show the load of the cart on the inclined plane, and they show the downhill force that might accelerate the cart. And now it is preserved. Just if you move these pulleys, you have always the same directions here. And to get that idea, that really needed a long time of research. And then you have finally in the blackboard here, that is the bodily situation. Here you describe it with vectors, and here you have maths. And grade 10 is that you can see the coincidence of it if you have a balance on an equilibrium. And my argument here is not that you have to understand the physics, but my argument is to shape the curriculum in a way that it works needs a long time of research down to the nitty-gritty that you know you have to move this pulley here. That was the point to get it really going. Now we shift to adolescence in grade 11. In grade 11, you have the situation that you really fix electricity to a set of wires. And at the same time, you have fields around it that do not need any material. They are just state of forms in space without an underlying matter. So you fix electricity on matter, and you have state of forms without any matter. And that is a dichotomy. and to get really two aspects compared of the same situation that is really a developmental task in grade 11, that was a lot of research that actually Florian Schulz did. And finally, then you can have in grade 12, you can describe the atom with these fields without an underlying matter, and all the potential for appearances you can describe here by relating to the atom. And what the idea actually is that you do not criticize the atom like it has been done for a long time in Waldorf environments, but that we really offer new contexts that show the atom in a context. And so you can present the content of the university entrance exam in a broader context. So what is high school then? High school then presents a context for university entrance exams that is broader, and through that you have a broader overview and you have a curriculum of coherence. And in this curriculum of coherence, the dualistic university entrance exams are just one aspect in a non-dualistic approach. And with this, I wanted to relate to Jost's opening lecture, because Jost asked how non-dualistic is Waldorf. And my argument is, if Waldorf is high schools capable, it should be able to offer not merely dualistic approaches, but context to approaches that are not merely dualistic, non-dualistic approaches that present the students a broader overview. And now I'm skipping to a slide. Now here, just getting back to the questions we just were looking at. What is particular Waldorf? To pick up latent questions during your lessons you teach, to generate enthusiasm by offering contexts, and offering contexts that catch the moment where the phenomena come into being. That is the main idea here, and therefore you need a curriculum of coherence, and you really have to go to the nitty-gritty of finding the right solutions. You need research and you need training to know all these very specific aspects you have to know, otherwise it will not work. So far as a first statement, now I'm just skipping the resonance aspect and I'm proceeding to Dirk, and now we just change our position, and now Dirk will continue.
So now I show, oh yeah, I do show up, yeah. Okay, so now second example. Wilfried, so those of you who joined the lectures last year might remember that Wilfried and I presented already last year how we did the whole topic of atoms in a non-dualistic way. This approach Wilfried just talked about in a hybrid way of teaching last year. And I want to continue with another example of the state of Hessen, where Kassel and Frankfurt and Marburg are situated, and want to continue in a way to add one aspect, because all what Wilfried said needs also a certain structure of the organization of the school. So you need to understand that Germany is a composition of a republic of 16 different states. And in each state, we have special legal situations for schools, literally in each of those 16 states. And the situation of the Waldorf schools in Hessen is very specific. And this is due to the fact that about 50 years ago, at that time, we had 3 Waldorf schools in Hessen, one in Frankfurt, one in Kassel, one in Marburg. And these 3 schools decided exactly what Wilfried said: how can we teach in a way, when we want to teach in high school in this way Wilfried described, how do we need to organize our high school that it is possible, or that it becomes possible? And for this, these 3 schools came to a special contract, a special legal situation here in our state, and they got a contract with the government of the state, with the school government. And the content of this contract is that here the Waldorf schools have a high school, in what high school means here, grades 11, 12, and 13. These 3 grades, they are accepted similar as, or comparable, or more or less the same, like they are accepted in high schools. So we are free to do whatever we want to teach in a Waldorf way, all the way up to grade 10. By the end of grade 10, we need to check, are our students capable to proceed to get a high school degree? And then when they're in grade 11, we need to follow the state regularities. So we need to, for example, we need to teach the same subjects in the same number of lessons, and the teachers have to be qualified like high school teachers in our high school schools, state schools, and so on. The whole contract has advantages and disadvantages, of course, but the idea is, and so what we can say now after decades, that this way here, we continue to follow this way because from our point of view, it has many advantages. It has more advantages than disadvantages. On one hand, the whole testing system, the whole testing for the final high school degree, final high school exams for all the graduation is in our own hands. So we do the testing ourselves. It's we do the whole testing system exactly like our high school colleagues and state high schools right next door. So this is a very comfortable situation. Our students don't have to be tested by some sort of strangers, or they don't have to undergo strange situations. And they, especially in this state here, they can graduate from high school by collecting all sorts of grades in grade 12 and 13. So the final testing is only one little thing. It's only 1/6 of the whole testing of 2 years. And by this, the results of our students are very good. So this is one advantage. But from the other point of view, Wilfried and I are focusing on tonight, one big advantage is that we can stick to the main lesson block system all the way up to the end of high school. And why is it like this? Because like I teach biology and chemistry, and usually when you are in other states of Germany, many of my colleagues have to argue with their colleagues, how many lessons do I get for biology, for chemistry, and for the other subjects? How many lessons do I get? Because everybody wants to teach as many lessons as possible. Here in Hessen, it's all regulated by the state. So when I have an advanced course in biology, I don't have to argue anything. It's regulated by the state that I have 5 lessons per week, and basic courses 3 lessons per week. So there's no discussion anymore. And the content is also given by the state. How do I have to prepare my students for the final exams when they're written exams, and the exam questions come from the state government? Now, when you are an experienced teacher and you are a Waldorf teacher, if you're experienced after some years, if you're experienced enough, then you will easily see that the government is right, that the prescribed content can be taught within about 2/3 of the time. So I need, when I train my students for the final degrees, I need 3 track lessons per week to make sure that they know all the all the natural laws, all the facts, all the terms they have to learn for the final degree, final exams. But then the other 2 lessons can be taught in main lesson blocks. And the idea is, and this is why it started here in this state about 50 years ago, that the time which is left over then can very nicely be used to go beyond the prescribed content in grade 11, 12, 13. You can go beyond, because the idea of Waldorf education, from my point of view, is in primary school, Waldorf education offers an alternative. When you look at how do students learn to write, for example, it's an alternative way in Waldorf school compared to state schools. In middle school or lower secondary school, it's more an additive approach. The differences in math and languages and native language and so on, they are not that big anymore, but we teach more subjects like gardening, wood carving, and so on. We do all these projects. So it's more an additive approach. And in high school, the approach is you need to go beyond. So you need to teach for the high school degree, you need to teach the prescribed content on one hand, but the Waldorf idea is to go beyond. And so when you follow this way, we follow here, and now we have in Hessen, we have 13 Waldorf schools and 9 are complete Waldorf schools all the way up to grade 13, and they all follow this way. And about 20 years ago, in the Waldorf schools in Hamburg also decided to follow this way. The other 14 states in Germany, the other Waldorf schools in the other 14 states, they still follow different approaches, because, like I said, it has advantages and disadvantages. So now when you look at the results, you see here, year by year, this is the average outcome of high school graduation exams. When you check Waldorf schools, they are year by year, and this is true for all the decades. These are just the numbers from the last 12 years. You see, year by year, we are about 0.2 grades better than the state schools. And this means a whole lot, because then the access to universities is much better, much easier. So we can offer with this approach here in much richer high school education, and plus a surplus, better results even with this. And here, this is now, when you look at this, you see the upper line, the green line, you see the Waldorf schools are always better than the state schools. Of course, in parentheses, this is not a fair comparison, because in state schools you have a complete different clientele than we have in Waldorf schools. And when you compare it precisely, you can say Waldorf schools are at least not worse. We are at least as good as state schools here with the results. And then just one impression here. Like in grade 12, when I teach biology for the graduation, there's enough time to have a very nice main lesson block. And for example, I can go into all details of metamorphosis of plants and have these nice student works. And then those of you who are interested in, I did some research about it and published it, and it's for free. You can download it for free. I'm sorry, it's only in German, but you can, when you go on this link, you can download it for free, and you can read. And also, if you if you don't understand the German, you might at least get some impressions by the pictures and so on. So you can, this is an approach to go into a much richer high school teaching than it is possible in state schools. And this is the way we prefer here in Hessen. I pass on to Wilfried, example number 3.
Welcome back. I would like to refer to the latent questions, and the faculty at the Steiner Teacher Training College in 2009 discussed that the latent questions you have as a high school teacher are much broader, and they are related to questions that live in the society you are a member of during the time you are just here on Earth. So you have these questions that are just have to be discussed because they are burning issues of the society. And we had the idea that we should discuss that with the high school students together, and that we should really invite people all from very different areas of society, ask them to give presentations, and ask every school in Germany to propose 3 or 4 students that could take part, could just attend one of those symposiums we offered. We offered it twice a year. We called it Youth Symposium for students from grade 11 to 13. And there was an entrance ticket, and the entrance ticket was an essay. They have to write an essay, and then they have to rewrite it, or they can just come. And so we always read about 100 to 200 essays before a youth symposium takes place. And afterwards, we have immediately the idea, what about the topic of the next youth symposium? And just jumping into 2021, there we had one symposium on the human condition. What is it like to be human? And what we offered were lectures on the human condition, on bodily and interpersonal space, and on figures of resonance in the pulse of our times. And the famous author, Siri Hustvedt, contributed. It was still the pandemic. You can see here Siri Hustvedt in New York City discussing with students here in Kassel in one of the big halls. And that was in a time without pandemic conditions. And here you can see Magnason from Iceland discussing about ecology. And the idea is to bring interesting people into this symposium and discuss burning issues of our times together, and ask the students to bring that back into their schools. And it also relates to this developmental task. Hurleman describes that you have to get aware of really who you are, and you form your identity in a way that you can see how can I contribute to society by that exchange. And we just offer it from Thursday to Sunday. And what the students meet are lectures in the morning and in the afternoon, and seminars and trainings in between. And in the evening, they go to the theater, to concerts, or they have an evening meeting. And we do not care about how they find their accommodation and everything else. We just ask them to attend a conference, and we just deal with them like adults attending a conference, but we have big, big ears to hear during the discussions all the questions they have. we try to pick that up and then to find another topic for a next symposium and then discuss that with leading persons that really have to contribute to one or the other topic. That just as a brief example for this specific way to just give impulses to a cooperations of different schools and different communities from different schools and to have this exchange from the young people. And we just offer the framing for that, but we always ask the students to find their way they want to relate to the positions or arguments presented in the lecture. We do not take any influence. We just want to listen and make new proposals by choosing the keynotes. So that was the third example. And now Dirk will come.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, example number 4. I want to talk about the portfolio method. I guess that all of you are familiar with the portfolio method. And we are now in one of the western states of Germany, which is called Nordrhein-Westfalen or Westphalia. That's the state where Cologne and Alanus University, Bonn, and so on, that region right next to the Rhine Valley. You need to understand that we have 2 different high school degrees in Germany. One you could call a major high school degree, which is after grade 13 in Germany, or usually after grade 13. And then we have a minor high school degree after grade 12. When you leave school, better to say, when you leave school after grade 12, then you need to go for 1 year into some sort of a company or whatsoever to do practical work. And then also after 13 years, you have a high school degree and you can go also not to all universities, but also to many universities. It's a different way to study, to join a university. So now what did the colleagues do in Nordrhein-Westphalia? And some years ago, they thought and started with one school in Bochum, and then now it's sort of spread out in a way even into some other states of Germany. About 25 schools take part in this project now. They said, well, we have a portfolio in grade 12, and the students are supposed to do an own project in grade 12 anyhow. And they do also a whole lot of practical work in middle school. And then we go to farms in grade 9 and into landscape survey in grade 10 and to do some social work in grade 11. So why don't we develop this portfolio method and ask the students to write and to document all what they did in their practical school time in a Waldorf school. And then let them do an extensive project in grade 12. So at that point, then they developed also a certain way how to document it. And see this map, I will show you the original a little later, that you can also see the size of it. So now we have a very sophisticated map for the portfolio method. And then another picture here. This is now when you open it, it's quite large. And then you have in the middle of it, you have very nice paper, and there you can collect all what you documented of your practical school time. So now the legal fight is going on. What do the colleagues in Nordrhein-Westphalia try to achieve? They argue when our students have more lessons in their school time than state students, and when they document all the practical work they did, then they might not have to do 1 year after grade 12, another year of practice. Instead, they could go directly to the next step of their education after graduating after grade 12 with a minor high school degree. And they are very far advanced. Last Friday, I talked with one of the persons one guy who is responsible for this legal process in North Rhine-Westphalia. And he said, well, they hope that they can start next year in August when the new school year starts, that they are at the point that they can come up with project schools, and that they can try that they can after 1 year of project schools taking part in it and proving that the Waldorf method is successful, then in 2 years they probably might get the permit that the students can go to a university right after grade 12, and that's not necessary to do another year of practice. So I will show you here, if you want to read something about the whole portfolio method, and then I added this link. Then I will now, this is here. See, since you can see my head, you can see it's quite large, the whole thing here. And I will open it, and it's very nicely made here with hard paper, and it has a magnet system, like you might hear the clack. It has a magnet system, and this portfolio you can present to companies or to some sort of employers who want to employ you, maybe for an apprenticeship, or you can also present it to universities. And it's very far advanced. They tested it with many people, many guys in charge in North Rhine-Westphalia, and they for employing young people, and they were all excited about this progress in the portfolio method. Now I have a very short video. It's again only in German, but you can see 4 students, and you can easily see how self-conscious they are and how proud they are about their work. The first guy is showing, he did training with lower grade students. The second, that's the only girl, she is talking about a choir project. The third one made a Stirling engine. And the fourth one did athletics, and he did a project about athletics. He did himself sport, a very sportive student. So just enjoy 4 minutes of 4 students of Bochum.
One other example just. Now we have the university entrance exam, but another chance is to get a preparation for vocational training, and even to include a vocational training in high school. And I'm just showing one area of the Waldorf school in Kassel. And here you see one part of the school area, and in this area you have a metal workshop. In this building you have a wood workshop and a workshop for electrical appliances. Here is after school care, and that is the building for the arts and the kindergarten of the school. And what the school in Kassel really offers is that you can combine high school graduation and a vocational training. Usually, if you just pass the university entrance exam, you have in grade 10, 11, 12, and 13 the preparation for the Abitur, the university entrance exam, and afterwards you pass a traditional vocational training. What the Steiner Waldorf School in Kassel offers is that you intertwine it. And during grade 10 and 11, you have both. You have high school main lessons in the morning and some track classes. And you have additionally the vocational training in the Dualwerk. So you combine vocational training and school education. In grade 12, you complete your vocational training, and then in grade 13 and 14, that means grade 12 and 13 of school education, you just pass your university entrance exam. So after 14 school years, you have both your university entrance exam and a vocational training. And the idea is that you have in one school very different kinds of encountering the world brought together by the students. You have all the experiences of a vocational training, but you have also the experiences of other students more focusing on the traditional Waldorf approach, and they meet during the main lessons and some track classes. And so you have very different aspects brought together in one school. And just to give you a short impression, that is the tailoring here. That is one track. This is electrical appliances and the metal workshop. And here you have the wood workshop. And by that, you have the situation that the students are at least 2 days a week in the workshop in grade 10 and 11. Then they have all the school lessons with respect to the vocational training 1 day, and on 2 days they have all the track classes. But on all day, from Monday to Friday, they have the main lessons. So what you really combine is the Waldorf approach and the vocational training. In grade 10 and 11, 12, you finish your vocational training, and then you have 2 years left to pass the university entrance exam. And now I just proceed to this.
Okay, you see, we started with longer explanations for the first examples, and so now we sort of make a shortcut for the last examples. Now, sixth example is about the lunar node. As all of you know, that we are also always talking about the 7-year cycles, or approximately 7-year cycles in Waldorf education. This is very well known. What is much less known, as far as I can see, is that Steiner also talks a whole lot about 3-year cycles. So what happens when the child is about 3 years old, when it says for the first time I to itself, then after 6 years, 9 years, which we call Rubicon, 12 years, 15 years. And then what happens in grade 12 when the students are about 18, or a little more than 18 years, or when they turn 18 and become older than 18. And see, this is, I want to introduce you to, from the point of view of astrology, this is an important moment in all our biographies, and it repeats all the time after about 18 years, then 7 months and 9 to 10 days, so 18.61 years. And I also wrote where Steiner talks about this, and this is not covered by all these researches which are done like by guys like Remolago and so on. And it's not that easy to sort of detect, to note that this moment happens. But this is a decisive moment in the biography, and from this point of view, it makes sense that school ends after grade 12. And this is one of the reasons, from my point of view, that in most countries, school ends after grade 12. It was the case for many years also in Germany. That school ends after grade 13 is fairly new. It was introduced about 100 years ago, not by the Waldorf schools, a little earlier by the German government for some reasons. And so now we have 1 year longer high school time. And from my point of view, the biggest mistake the teachers in Germany make when they teach grade 13 like they teach grade 12 students. Because in grade 13, when I follow Steiner, in grade 13, they're already young students. So in grade 12, you can, students, university students. So in grade 12, you can teach them like school students, but in grade 13, you need a completely new approach. You need to teach as if you are in a university, or at least or sort of a bit in a university. And so now we are, with this example, we are now in southern Germany. I need also to add, what is the meaning of lunar node? As you can see, the orbit, when you have the Earth in the center, and you see the sun, the orbit, from the point of view of the Earth, then you can say the orbit of the sun, or the orbit of the Earth around the sun is formed in a special way, but the orbit of the moon is not in the same plane. It's sort of bent a little bit. It's about 5 degrees. And so there are 2 points when the orbit of the moon crosses the orbit of the sun. And how it is at the moment of your birth, this moment of your birth, when the whole situation, when moon and sun and earth are in a certain position, this repeats itself all the time after 18 years and 0.61. And this means the next lunar node shows up when you're 37, and then again with about 56, and so on. And so this example now is in southern Germany, in the city of Freiburg, because about 15 years ago, the students in on the oldest Waldorf school in Freiburg in southern Germany got upset about their teachers. They said, we cannot stand the idea that you will go on with your teaching in grade 13 like you taught us in grade 12. So please, let's do it in a different way. And the teachers refused. The teachers wanted to proceed like they taught in grade 12. Then the students and a group of 13 left school, formed an own company, hired teachers and students, rented, so of course they needed to collect money. They formed some sort of union, and then they had enough money to hire teachers, and they rented a building and so on. And then they went in grade 13, they went on their own. They set up their own curriculum. They set up the own timing, the timetable, when they wanted to learn, in the morning, in the evening, whatever. They completely learned for a whole year on their own, and then there's also a way to get a high school degree in Germany. They all 13 passed the exam, and that was so successful that ever since, year by year, new students, and now it's spread out in Freiburg. It's not just only students from this Waldorf school. Now there are other students from state schools, from religious schools, and so on. They all participate, and now there are even 2 companies. Year by year, there are 2 companies, and these students learn by themselves and pass successfully all by themselves without the school structure. They pass the exams by themselves. And it's just great to meet these young students, and how they stand, how they look forward to meet life, so to say, after school. And this is the last slide then. If you are interested in this, the first group it's still called Methodos, and the second is now called Abinom. So we have 2 groups of students year by year in Freiburg in southern Germany. This was example number 6, and our 7th topic is now. Please, comments, questions, remarks. We are open for everything. Share your experience with us, and looking forward to learn also from you.
So, thank you for those examples and ideas around high school. So, there's the first question by Bruce from Kenya.
I am on audio, yeah. You can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. It was really very informative. I just wanted to give a tiny little example. I helped set up the high school at the Nairobi Waldorf School a few years ago, and we actually eventually chose to do the International Baccalaureate, the IB, as that exam. And as you've already implied, there were no Waldorf trained IB teachers, so we had to get IB teachers from elsewhere. But they came in. And I told them, yeah, in a Waldorf school, we have main lessons. So you have to teach your subject in 3 or 4 week blocks. And they said, we can't do that. And I said, well, you've got to. And they did. And they said, after the 2 or 3 blocks, it's really effective. We can get much more across in the main lesson blocks than we do otherwise. So all I really wanted to say, thank you.
Yeah, this is exactly what you need to experience, that it is effective. When you think of what Sven said last week, that it's all started out with suggestions from Steiner and with the main lesson blocks now. Then the teachers believed and they just tried it. And then we found out it's 3 to 4 weeks is very effective. And now we have a whole lot of scientific proof already. There was quite some research done with the main lesson block teaching, and it is really effective. And it's so sad when teachers don't try it even or just give it up. It's really very good. Yeah, it's very profound. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yes, Yashni.
Good evening. Thank you so very much for this session this evening. I am a high school teacher for many, many years in South Africa. And it was reassuring to hear that the movements around the world are struggling with the same challenges around high school, especially with the school leaving certificate and state regulations. And what we find here in South Africa right now is that it's been a very positive thing to be able to have encountered state regulations around private education in the country. And the work has been done in formulating a framework, but in that working, we can see that if we really work together, we can address state-trained teachers or teachers who are not Waldorf school teachers who haven't been part of our movement or haven't been trained as Waldorf high school teachers. The possibility and the potential of where we're sitting right now is tremendous. And I'm very, very heartened by these new kind of models that we can, and you've brought to us this evening. So it's very, very exciting for where Waldorf High School can lead us. And I'm especially confident, and what I've always really was drawn to is that the high school education is for beyond high school. And so I just want to say thank you again for helping me be a better high school teacher.
Maybe if there aren't other questions or comments right now, maybe there are other people who have would like to share their high school experience in their country. So what we have heard about was very much examples out of a German perspective, and it might be interesting to listen. Are there other examples, other projects from other countries? You would just like to give us a presentation, just a not long time, so that we have an idea around it, or give us a website or something. Yes, Joan.
Yeah, I just want to comment actually rather than, or ask a question rather than talk about South Africa's experience. And that is the portfolios that you presented, Wilfried and Dirk. Do they look like class 12 projects? As we would have here, for instance, in having our students do a class 12 project. Is it the same thing?
It is the same thing, but extended. It's much more extended. It's not just one task of many in grade 12, and also theater play, and maybe
Yes.
like in Germany, an art excursion to somewhere and all this. But it's more a very extensive project. And this is also something Wilfried and I always try to say, that one of the mistakes from our point of view we make, especially in high school, is that we ask the students to take part in everything. It's just an overload of lectures week by week. In German schools, sometimes in grade 12, they have even more than 40 more than 40 lessons per week. So this is much too much. And when you go for such a extended portfolio method, of course, you need reduction in other parts of your school time. Otherwise, you don't have enough time for that.
Thank you.
Yes, it's Sven and then Liz.
Thank you. I wonder how much we miss a chance by just talking about high school students here. I'd heard the story before about the Freiburg students who started their own school, and of course the way you described it was because they didn't get what they needed in their present school. I'd love that kind of attitude in adolescent students without rebellion. So what can we do to encourage that kind of initiative within the institution? And I think the answer is that we need to start that idea much earlier than class 9 or class 10. So I'm kind of looking at middle school years and thinking, what do we need to plant? What seeds do we need to plant that they take this kind of ownership throughout the high school? And I think you've given wonderful examples, for example, with the portfolio method. And I wonder if there are any examples of good practice around from different countries where people could share that. This encouraging of initiative from about the middle school onwards, that they grow more and more into independence towards the end of the high school.
You want to comment on that, Wilfried or Dirk?
Yeah, I mean, Sven said what in a way the same what we also said. It's in the portfolio method, they try to start in grade 9, for example, and it's exactly, we need to start earlier. What I would like very briefly to comment is that when you look at Germany, always focus on Germany and these 13 years of school time. And then when you talk about middle school, we run into one problem, that when you ask German Waldorf teachers, experienced German Waldorf teachers, to talk about grade 11 and 12, and they travel abroad all over the world, then often you think, oh, well, this sounds very nice for grade 11 and 12, but I cannot use it because then our school ends by the end of grade 12. And the German guys, they always talk about grade 11 and 12 because in the way they do, because they have 1 year more time. So it's exactly what Sven pointed at. We need to start earlier. And my suggestion is even to combine grade 8 and 9 and to form a new approach to the Waldorf curriculum, and then start the whole thing at the latest there, because in worldwide, we are a worldwide movement. We are not a German movement anymore. We are a worldwide movement. And from this point of view, we need some idea to come to an end by the end of grade 12. And yeah, that's just a brief comment.
Liz.
Thank you. This was very interesting. From the United States, I noted that you've given us these wonderful positive examples, which I'm very grateful for, but you also began with saying that there were challenges for the high school work in Germany. And there are certainly challenges here. We've had a decline in overall enrollment in our independent Waldorf high schools and in the number of Waldorf high schools. The growth is in the publicly funded high schools, but they have even more significant restrictions on what they can do. That the higher up in the hierarchy of education you go, the more it's restricted. So that is one possible similarity. I'm also curious about the portfolios. Does the school help build the record of what these students are doing, because that could go all the way down even lower than middle school as a thread, building these practical experiences and capacities to get to the 12th grade point. But it would need, I think, a structure to support it. And just another question, we lose students here, middle school and then again going into high school as two key points where students drop out. Is that also true in Germany?
Yes, it is. And I want just to bring one aspect or one assumption I am struggling with or I'm dealing with. I have the impression that we have the idea we do wonderful main lessons and we present a wonderful content, and this will be accepted by the students. But today you have also to describe in an appropriate way what your goals actually are. And I have the feeling that is new. And I have the feeling, for example, that you need as an overarching framework that you contribute to the sustainable development goals, and you have to show how you do it. And then you get an idea of oh yes, we have something very specific to offer at those main lessons in those projects. And if that is clear, then the students can appreciate in an enhanced way what we offer. And for example, next year I will offer an elective in science education, and I will really tell the students what some of my goals are. In former times, I would not have done it. I would just have had the aim to get them involved. But now, where they look more from the outside at their educational pathway or at their learning pathway, I think, or I have the feeling that we really have to tell the students these are our goals. And then they can, yes, develop a stronger commitment to what is particular Waldorf, and they are not just stuck into comparing it to public schools, where you have, of course, a bigger offer of electives and options and so on, because the schools are bigger, at least in Germany. So I think what we have to change is that we really have to talk with the high school students about our goals we have, not in detail, but at the overarching framework.
Thank you. There's a sign from Christoph.
Yeah, thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. I have a question. You talked about this youth symposium, and you have done that now for 16 years.
Yes.
So you must have a wealth of information about tendencies of development in youth and in schools. And my question is, is there a reflection about it? I mean, 16 years is a lot of time. So you could have followed the tendencies in the development, in social development, in intellectual development, in engagement development. I would like to hear that. Have you researched that? And secondly, if you have done that for 16 years, was there on some moment a necessity to change the format, or it is still the same?
I will get started with your last question. Yes, we had to change the format. And at the very beginning, our topic was just one word. And we had a lot of students, 200 students, and they just engaged with that topic. And for example, after our 7th symposium, we had read a lot of essays, and we really got the feeling now we have to change to choose as a new topic love. And we just discussed it for a long time. And then we finally did it, and it worked. And a lot of different topics worked. And then the number decreased, And then we had the impression, now we have to bring tension in it. So we took just two words into the headline, and then we shaped the whole conference to get that tension. And then we had the impression, okay, we have to offer something in the evening that they can really experience what is the social life of a big city or a community. And that was the main thing. But then the pandemic came, and the pandemic meant that we had declining numbers down to 100. And now we have recovered a little bit, but we have about 120, 130 this, and not 250 or 200. And then we discussed a lot about the format, and we invited former students and so on and so forth. But they really asked us, please stick to the seminars, stick to the trainings, and just keep this open-minded lectures with very different positions, and please do not interfere. At the very beginning, they wanted, during these events in the evening, they wanted to speak to us a lot and asked us, what is your position? And then that changed. Now our position is not that interesting any longer. Now it's more the community of the students having been there for 5, 6, 7 times. That is the first thing. And we always changed a little bit the format. Sometimes we skipped the trainings and made something else and so on. Now the other thing is about research. At the moment we have one research project, but what our main concern always was that the people having read the essays have an exchange, and we had this. And through that exchange, we got a feeling what are the burning questions at the moment, and that helped us to find new topics. And for us, that was the most important kind of action research or culture of reviewing it. We have a research project at the moment, but I am a little bit cautious because people are that open in their essays, and I have the feeling they should know that research will be done with these essays before. So it is just a question of having the right attitude. And so I'm a little bit cautious. At the moment, one university looks under a specific question at quite a couple of essays, and we will get a report, and that is an external evaluation. But nevertheless, as the person being involved, I have a strong commitment to respect that they wrote their essays to us and not to a research community. But that is my personal opinion. There are other people having another opinion. And we do not have one opinion in our organization.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. We have reached the end of our time. Thank you very much for those presentations. Maybe one comment from my side. What I see in all your examples you presented, what I really like to pursue as something or to discuss, this is the relationship between collectivism and individualism. So I think the velocity, the process of individualism is progressing. It's stepping in earlier, and it's going further. And this, I think, is one of the real questions. How can we meet that process of increasing individualism in early ages in the school time? So you said already, give more choices, give more time to not being instructed by teachers only, but find your own pathway of learning and so on. So the question of participation and giving consciousness to your learning progress for the young students, around those, this should be the principle around which Waldorf High School should be organized in future. because this is really, it's if you go 100 years back when the Waldorf School has been founded, it's a different kind of young people we are stepping out with much more individualism into the world. And I think your examples, they mirror it to what can we give the young people on that level.
But 100 years ago, it was not just the students were not different. I think one very important thing is the number of high school students was much less. At that time, about 1% of high school students got a high school degree. So the vast majority of the students left school after grade 8 at that time, because then they did not have to go to school anymore. Today in Germany, about 50% each year get a permission or get a degree to go to university. That's a completely different ratio. The whole ratio changed quite a bit also.
Yeah, the world is getting more and more academic. And out of a Waldorf perspective, this question of vocational training and having a holistic approach to education. So if everything gets more and more heady, the balance is not well done. And yeah. Okay, many things to discuss, but we are at the end of our time. Thank you very much for those wonderful examples. And I'm happy to announce our next speaker. This will be Tatjana Pavlov-West next Tuesday. She's from Freie Hochschule Stuttgart, Waldorf teacher training in Stuttgart, Germany. And she's speaking about how diverse is Waldorf. So looking forward to see you all again. Have a nice evening, nice day wherever you are, and a good week. And all the best for all of you. Thank you so much for Dirk and Wilfried.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.